everyone to this newest episode of the Women in Technology Spotlight. Today I have with me Shirley Werchota. She is a digital strategy advisor at BlueSoft. Welcome, Shirley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining this interview session. I look forward to our discussion. Maybe let's start off with a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are.
All right, okay, I can talk about that for ages, so just stop me when it gets too long. So I'm Shirley, and I currently live close to Vienna, somewhere in the south of Vienna, in a tiny little village. And I work from home, so that's super nice, being able to live and work in exactly the same place. So yeah, I'm multicultural. So my dad's Austrian, my mom's from Zimbabwe, and I grew up in different countries in Africa, in Burkina Faso and Zambia. So I'm what you call a third culture kid. And went to school there, really spent my whole life there until I moved to Austria when I was 18, right? And then started studying. So yeah, I had a pretty interesting journey in the sense that I never really wanted to study. I didn't see the points in having a, paper to prove what you're able to do. And until today, I still believe in people more than in their references. So I basically started studying environmental system sciences in Graz, and then moved on to basically doing other stuff. I did a lot of art back then. So I painted, I made jewelry, did photography. I had a few expos in Austria. That was very exciting. And then got into this lifestyle of, wanting to challenge the system, right? Until I was about 25, and I decided I need to go back to uni, just for the sake of, doing something and learning something. Basically, it was about learning. That was the motivation. And so I decided to look at the different studies that exist in Vienna, and to do something that I knew nothing about, right? So like where I had absolutely no idea, no experience, and honestly also no interest previously, because I thought, that this Austria does sort of help you with your studies. It offers you a great system, so go ahead and use that. So I looked at everything and I found two different studies. One would have been physics. No idea. Didn't even take physics in my last 2 years in school, right? Or IT. And at that point, I was not able to install a program on my computer. I'd call my brother and go like, "Hey, when's the next time I'm seeing you? Because I need to install this program." And he'd be like, "Just click it." And then I can't do that. It asks me stuff, and then I don't know what to do. So I decided to study computer science, and looked at the different specializations, and found this wonderful specialization at the University of Vienna called scientific computing. I just thought it sounded super sexy. I was like, wow, this sounds like, this sounds like rocket science. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna do it. Yeah, and then I started, and I suffered through the beginning because I basically really didn't know anything, and found out that there was a lot of mathematics, which didn't scare me as much as the programming, to be honest. But then it worked out fantastically. My interest grew with the topic. Um, I basically found a whole new world that I could identify with as, having previously been an artist. I thought, hey, this is just like art. Like, you imagine reality, and then you start building, creating. There's this piece of code that's supposed to represent something in reality, something that either someone wants or status quo, right? Um, and I found that everybody had different ways of coding. Our professors could tell who'd written what. So, like, some students would have other students hand in their programming homework for them, and the professors knew exactly, yeah, that's not what that person wrote. This is this person. So I also quickly understood that there was like a sort of a fingerprint, so it really came from inside. Like you were the interpreter, you're the vessel, that channels this interpretation of reality. And that, I think, was the biggest motivation factor for me to continue with these studies. I mean, they were super painful. And yeah, it was a lot of work. we could have needed so much more help that we didn't have, just due to resource shortages, or, the strategies of, setting up these bodies. But then I quickly took over it was the gender project at the time. So there was a project to support women who started studying IT. Um, and ran into yet another problem. So I had all these guys stand at the door and go, hey, we also need help. Like, my math skills are, nowhere to be seen. And please, can you let me in? Can I like take this, tuition? Can I profit from this? And I have to go like, no, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It is for women from women, and we can't actually do this. So I went on a crusade to obliterate the gender project and set up a mentoring project that would offer the same area of support for
Mhm.
basically every single student. And this was about 10 years ago. I recently had to look back through my mails, and I was like, wow, okay, I've gotten old, right? Yeah, and I set up a mentoring project that back then ran on €0 budget, and gave mentors the possibility to earn ECTS credits in an amazing class run by an amazing professor. And they would then just help, the new joiners, right? So that's what I did. I was super proud of it. I'm still super happy that it exists, and it still exists, by the way. So it hasn't gotten lost in
Wow.
time. And
Mhm.
yeah, big success, good stuff. And then I went on to have a child. So I've got a 4-year-old son that now during the summer holidays likes to join into my work very often.
Mhm.
He's a very curious individual. So sometimes, when he has my attention, he'll tell me that he can't talk to me right now because he's got a call, and I have to be really quiet while he's in his meeting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always amazed at how kids, pick up these things and
Yeah.
internalize them. Yeah. So he sometimes works alongside me, but mostly he's with my parents because I'm a single mother, so I raised my child by myself. Very happily so though, and thankful for my parents to be a part of this journey of mine. They're amazing with him, and they take him off my hands when I do have more important calls where I need to be fully focused.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's about me.
Wow. There's so many interesting things in that story you just told, and so many unexpected things, actually. I was, of course, immediately touched by the fact that you grew up in Africa like I did, which is, also, of course, something that was really unexpected because there are very few people. And obviously, we tend to forget that there are white people in Africa. That's something that's so weird, because even though I know it, when you said my dad is from Zimbabwe, I had this moment where I thought, oh.
Uh, no, my mom's Zimbabwean, but
Sorry,
she's
your mom,
mixed.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's from a mixed background.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got, yeah, I mean, in Zimbabwe, funny enough, or around the world, the family that I still have from Zimbabwe are
Mm-hmm.
basically predominantly all black, so dark skinned. We don't actually
Yeah,
have,
still. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's clear that it's not very visible, and this would be surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was the most beautiful thing about my childhood
Mm-hmm.
was to be able to grow up in different countries, specifically on the continent,
Mm-hmm.
because it's still the most beautiful
Yeah.
part of my heart and my memories. Yeah.
But that would be would have been my first question, actually. So how did you experience coming from Africa to Europe? I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, right?
It was really unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
So to be very honest with you, I think in the first year I was in Graz, I remember, in a student hostel
Mm-hmm.
in a dorm basically. And the first winter, I think I marveled at the first snow. I was so amazed by it, and I spent the rest of the winter not leaving my room. So
Oh,
I had a really sweet neighbor who'd go shopping for me and bring me food because it
mm-hmm.
was just too much for me to deal with. Everything was different. Standing at the bus stop, smiling at people and going, "Hey, how are you?" And
Yeah.
what's your problem?
Don't talk to me, stranger.
I know, right? So there's things like the lack of smile, the lack of communication. Um, that was very difficult. Also, the words, the chosen words, to depict certain things, like people would go like, "Oh, this is an acquaintance of mine."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Hold on, acquaintance? Is it a friend? Is it a family friend? Is it a longtime friend? Is it a new friend?"
Yeah.
So yeah, so those were things that startled me. The language, of course, just basically the weather, how it gets so dark so soon. So I've always,
Yeah.
lived
The
close
lack
enough
of
to the
color,
equator.
the gray. Mm-hmm.
The lack of color in people's clothing. That was also very, very unsettling. So I have to say, I think it took me about 6 years to get accustomed to being in Europe in
Mm-hmm.
general. And yeah, I put on about 20 kilos, and I think
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah, I
think,
was riding a good depression.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I wonder, you went to Graz directly from Africa. Did you have any relative, any roots there, or what is the reason you went to Graz?
So I like to say that my dad exported me to
Yeah.
Graz, right? He was like, "Hey kid, you're old enough now." I mean, he used to send us to work in the summers in different places where he had friends. So like
Mhm.
when I was 14, I ended up serving on construction sites in East Germany because a friend
Oh.
of his has a company there, so stuff like that. But when it came down to the choice of university, my dad did a HTL, so technical school, and it basically opened every single door in his life for him.
Mhm.
So he said, "Hey, you're gonna go study something technical because it's the only good thing."
Mhm.
And he decided to enroll me for uh, chemistry at
Oh,
the University of Graz, right?
oh, that's so much fun because I studied chemistry,
Oh, you did.
but at the University of Vienna, and I really
That's
actually
so.
finished it.
You did. Wow, you're such a strong person to
It was
have gone
awful, but
through
I
that.
did finish it.
Yeah, that's some tough stuff. Yes, I started like I didn't do chemistry though, so
Mhm.
I went behind back and I enrolled in environmental system sciences, basically because people who did that, with the direction geography, they looked a bit more like something that I wanted to be closer
Mhm.
to. So, they had the dreads and they,
Mhm.
were more colorful. And I thought, okay, I can deal with this.
Mhm.
In hindsight, it was a very bad decision. The choice of studies did not fit me at all. I also wasn't in a place in my life where I would have wanted to, push
Yeah.
through. Yeah, but Graz was, I think it was because it was closer to where my brother was studying. So he studied in Leoben
Oh,
at
okay.
the Montan Uni.
Yeah. Mhm.
So my dad probably thought, hey, you'll have your brother and that'll be good for you. Needless to say, he was busy with his life. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting similarity because I wanted to ask you if you had brothers or sisters close, because I remember when I came to Vienna, at least my brother came with me. He's a year older, and we both went to study, and it was and I thought we would be spending time together, but exactly the same way as your brother was living his life, my
yeah.
brother was living his life, and I barely
Uh-huh.
saw him. So yeah. um, I find that it's such a big and a bit lonely step to take, leaving your homeland and then just being kind of pushed in a completely different culture and sitting there
Oh,
and trying
massively.
to come to grasp with the differences of life all of the sudden.
Yeah. The difference is the loneliness, the holes really left by um, that which and you're used to just not being there anymore at all,
Yeah.
right? And also like when you do live abroad and you study abroad, you don't have your parents around, right? Which you've had around for like your whole life. So I used to see my parents once a year.
Mm-hmm.
It was no, it was definitely not something I enjoyed, right? So
Yeah.
knowing this now, if I were to move away with my son, I definitely do it differently. But I had the experience and the ability to learn from that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very privileged experience because who gets to grow up somewhere and then, out of your own choice, more or less, get
Mm-hmm.
to live in a different place that that offers you opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, right. And what I also see, and I see that in you too, it makes you stronger. I mean,
Oh
it's an
yeah,
experience when you go through it. It's not necessarily always great, but you become much
yeah.
more independent and you become stronger. And as you said, you learn a lot from that.
Mhm.
So you said you didn't like environmental science and it wasn't for you. So between going back to uni and studying computer science randomly and or scientific, what was it called again?
Scientific computing.
Scientific computing, which is very
Yeah.
specialized actually. What did you do in between? You said you were an artist and you made art and
Yeah.
jewelry, and that's such a far cry from being in tech, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it is actually. Although I see a lot of women who are very who are, you know, amazing in this field of technology, also have some artistic
Mhm.
tendencies, background, interests, right? But yeah, but back to the story. So between that time, there was a few years. At first, I went and I worked for a goldsmith in Vienna. So I actually made jewelry that was sold for a really fancy place in the first district. And then he started renovating his place and I ended up renovating his place. I decided to leave, right? Although the tools are the same and the methods are the same, it's just, you know, it's not jewelry. And I
Yeah.
also realized that because jewelry, art, those were my passions, right? And I understood from working with this amazing, amazing jeweler that if you make your passion to work,
Mhm.
you basically have to start dealing with things like, is my passion making me enough money?
Mhm.
Is my passion securing my, you know, my life, right? And at that point, I realized that I didn't want that because I wanted to keep my passion,
Mhm.
you know, as something that I could exercise without the pressure of
Mhm.
having to provide from that, you know, from that passion.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I left that
Mhm.
and I moved to Germany because of an ex-boyfriend. And didn't really have much orientation there either. So what I did is I proceeded to do what I always did, which is teach. So I taught kids, gave tuition, English, French, mathematics, Spanish, chemistry, whatever you name it. And then started actually working in home renovations with my back then boyfriend who was doing that, you know, as a living. So I started actually renovating houses, and because I had worked as a jeweler, I could solder really well. So I did heating systems and, you know, things like that, right? What fell in my lap, and that was the main motivator for starting to study. Was one day I was doing a garden, and I was laying, you know, grass like these I don't know how to say it in
Glasshouse.
English.
Yeah, yeah. This.
Rollrasen, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And I calculated how many kilos I had carried around that day, and I
Mhm.
decided it wasn't sustainable. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That brings me to something you said about programming. It's a bit
Mhm.
of a leap now, but I loved how you said it was like art, how you have a vision to create something and then you make it happen.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about it, because you said the study was hard. Obviously it was, because you didn't have any prerequisites and it was something
Yeah.
so different from what you had before. So I can't even imagine how you got through the first few semesters. But tell me a little bit about that, about the fact that you see this connection between creating something and programming.
Yeah. So for example, I mean, good. In the basis of it, programming is, yeah. What do I need? Hey, I need I don't know, let's do it easy. Yeah, I need a calculator. So
Mhm.
if you tell first semester students that you need a calculator, they're
Mhm.
gonna give you different versions of a calculator,
Mhm.
just because they maybe have, you know, different focal points, or because they think that a calculator should do this or that, right?
Mhm.
Some of them might be super creative and not even giving numbers, because a calculator could be anything.
Yeah.
So in that sense, there's this representation of reality that travels through you is impacted by you.
Mhm.
And in a sense that's closer to what I do now. If, for example, you take data, or you take data science, or you take machine learning, um, and everything we've been hearing lately about, you know, bias in models, and you know, data science. So that bias is something that you yourself personally cannot get rid of. Now, us, you know, people who are interested in developing ourselves, we seek our biases actively, right? We seek to recognize them, we seek to understand them, where they're from, and so, you know, be able to act with less bias in our lives. but we can never fully get rid of them. That is just human nature, right? It's too deeply ingrained in us. So with data, if you're looking at data and you say, hey, I've got to recognize something here, you're going to recognize something that's important to you, right? And even that is the artistic perspective, because an artist is going to represent what is important to them.
True.
So yeah, so this artistic perspective in everything that we do in programming, we're dealing with data in a programmatic way, algorithms, all of that represents basically you. Yeah.
I love how you took the discussion exactly where I wanted to go, because
Good.
that was what I was thinking about when you talked about it being art, and how you created something. And then my mind immediately went to the whole thing with the artificial intelligence and how biased it is, and how people underestimate the fact that we bring our whole history and our whole background into what we create in technology. Because, you know, a lot of people have this idea that technology is very objective. It is not at all. I mean, it's just a recreation of ourselves, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a
thank you for
recreation.
that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And also building on top of that, um, you know, not just that you think it is an objective thing. Technology has been taught to us as this is just a thing, and you do with it what you want.
Yeah.
But it really absolutely isn't. It was historically in the German speaking language, at least, it's called a Handwerk, handiwork, right? So something like that can never be artistic, or is not put together with art, or you know, with your own perspectives and with your objective view. Um, but I think slowly, the more IT programming is maturing and the more it is touching different areas of our reality, the more we are realizing that we were utterly wrong about that.
And not just because it's touching on more things in our lives and becomes more pervasive in our reality. I think it's also because more women are going into tech. This is just my personal view, but I do feel that we bring a different perspective to the whole thing, and we are more in tune with the fact that this is not just about our heads; it's also about our emotions, right?
Absolutely. I mean, don't even get me started on the women topic of IT, because I can go hours about that.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but it starts at uni. You know, it starts at uni. Professors are male. It starts with what they show us. These are the people who did amazing things in IT. They're all male. Okay, great. We go into a male-dominated area as women. Of course, we bring in the emotional side. We have been socialized to, you know, be in touch with our emotions and to prioritize our emotions. But nowadays, when I sit in meetings full of men, still, it's always the same, right? Full of men, and we're talking about customer centricity, and you ask them, hey, what does the customer want?
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, it is something emotional.
Yeah.
They want some feeling of theirs, you know, to be addressed. They want a want to be addressed, and those wants and those needs are generally not rational. Yeah, if it was rational, then you could make a plain calculator and say this is the functionality, and that is
Right.
absolutely never enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that, but I still think that women are just more in touch with their
Yeah.
with that part of the whole process of creating things, even technological things. And that's
Yeah.
why I feel it's so important, because that's another discussion that I like to have with people, why diversity is so important in tech. Because since everyone is now using tech, you know, I mean, it used to be more hidden. So tech was always a part of life, but it used to be more hidden. Now that we have this digitalization, everybody has to use the technology, and it should be a representation of all of us, but it isn't at the moment still,
Yeah.
because it's so male and dominated and white dominated.
Yes, and white dominated. You're right. It absolutely has to be a representation. I mean, um, I like to, when I'm faced with this discussion, right? I like to ask my customers what the portion, the percentage of their customer base is that they would like to address. Because if it is only 50%, then they should keep going as it is. Whereas if they would like to, you know, really leverage their full customer base, then they need to expand their thinking. And expanding your thinking is not something you do for yourself. It is something you do in expanding your teams, in bringing in people with different mentalities, different, you know, focal points, with different backgrounds. Very, very importantly, diversity is not just an issue of male, female. It is an issue of male female. It is an issue of cultural background. It is an issue of physical ability. There are so many issues that weigh into diversity. And I know for a fact that companies, and this is measurable, companies that place value on diversity do better with customers. They earn more money. Yeah,
Because
so
customers
absolutely.
actually are diverse. We underestimate this fact, right? But that brings me to what you actually do, because you are a digital strategy advisor. So what does that mean?
Oh, that's a good question. It took me a while to figure out after I got the title. So, digital strategy advisor is so by BlueSoft at least, it is a position where you will advise, so consultancy rather than technical support. So it is an advisory position in this journey of digital transformation, digital enablement, and digital acceleration, right? So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I'm involved in some projects as I have different roles in different projects. Is it an advisory role? Is it a coaching role for example, product owners? How to be agile in a not agile structure, how to be a good product owner, how to run a truly agile team, etc. And how to be really product driven, product oriented, customer oriented. Or I could be advising, different entities or customers all the way up to C-level about, hey, what is it that you don't see that you would like to see your company do, right? And then a lot of times when it's about technology, C-level tends to want to talk about technology, which is where I come in and I say, no, dude, we're not talking about that, right? Take a step back. Let the techies deal with the technology because that's what they do. But what do you want to see happen from that technology, from using it, from moving to it, migrating to it? Yeah. What are what's your vision? And then I figure out in the organization what it needs. Does it need organizational change? Does it need extra job descriptions, roles? Does it need a restructuring? Or does it really just need the right people in the right places? So like I'll also go and sniff out right people and be like, hey, this person, this is great. Yeah.
I think this is so important because we tend to focus too much on the technology instead of focusing on what we're trying to achieve. I mean, it's not about what feature this specific box gives you or what line of programming will make what faster. It's about what is the outcome of the whole thing you're building here. And I like that there's more focus on that aspect now.
I was just going to say it is a necessary focus because for long enough we have been doing this thing of saying what functionality should that technology give us, and how many companies have realized how many millions they've thrown out of the window because they didn't really need that functionality in the end, right?
And that's what a lot of vendors, like also my employer, do. We tell the customers what features we can give them instead of telling them what problems we solve. I mean, we are in the transition of doing this better, but there's this urge to to outshine the others, and then you start talking about you have this feature and this feature, and you can do this, and customers just are overwhelmed with all the features you can give them. They have no clue whether they need them or not because they don't focus on what they actually want to achieve. So this is a very important part. And I just remembered something else you said initially in your in the first round. You said you work from home and you enjoy that. So that's an aspect I think that's also amazing about working in IT, right? Being able to combine bringing up your son and working from home and that flexibility. Would you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, for sure. I'd love to. So when I was actually choosing what I was going to study, I pictured it. I thought to myself, okay, 10 years down the line, where am I? What am I doing? Right. And with physics, okay, I pictured myself in the lab, right? But with IT, I thought, hey, look, I saw a beach by my feet. I saw a laptop on my knees, right? And I just saw this amazing freedom that is possible, right? This versatile lifestyle that I could lead, which I don't now because I've got a kid, so it
but
changes.
still, I mean, compared to someone who has to be in a lab or in an office every day, I mean,
Exactly. Yeah, and so when so my work up until now did not allow me to work from home or to work in this remote way. So since I started working with BlueSoft, and this is also one of the reasons I started working at BlueSoft, was because the possibility of working fully remotely for a company in Poland
Ah,
was
okay.
was on the table. Like it was not questioned. Of course, the question was, hey, would you want to travel here from time to time?
Of course.
Sure, of course, yeah. I love Warsaw by now. I love Danzig. I really enjoy working at that company. It's an amazing, amazing company with so much potential,
Mhm.
but also it was never questioned.
Yeah.
So all they asked me was, what laptop do you want? And do you need anything else in your home office? Do you need, like, screens, or what's your table like? Is there anything we can do for you? All
Mm-hmm.
right, no, fine, thanks. I mean, I'm cool, lying on my sofa as long as I don't get a back pain, because I am at that age where I start getting a back pain if I do that too long. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how some companies already had that mindset pre-pandemic and how others now had to move along. And I mean, a lot of employers who didn't let you work remotely previously now had to let you work remotely
Yeah.
and had to understand that this was quite possible and nobody died, you know? I
Oh, no,
mean, people
no.
died, but
Yeah.
not from that.
Yes, it was perfectly fine. And I mean, also with this remote thing with BlueSoft, for example, a few weeks ago, I was sitting in a call. We have a coffee call once a week for the project to discuss, internally what's going on. And honestly, I tell you the truth, one of my colleagues was sitting at the beach with really bad reception, and people running around, and a lot of noise in the background, but this is what he was doing, and he was working there. So he took his family on holiday. He said, look, family, we're here for 2 weeks, but one of them I'm going to work.
Mhm.
And it worked absolutely fine. And BlueSoft promotes that with all their employees, to say, look, you've got to be comfortable, you've got to be happy how you're working, plus you've got to be productive. So
Mhm.
what is your best setting to be productive?
Yeah, that brings
Yeah.
me to this whole topic of new work. And unfortunately, we've already been talking for over half an hour, and I would
Mm.
really love to continue, but I can't, because then our interview would be 1.5 hours and nobody will watch it.
That's obvious, but maybe we should have a catch up another time
Yeah, we
and
should
talk.
definitely, because there's so much I would really like to keep talking about. But I have to wrap up. So I have to ask you the typical last question. If you met a young woman and she'd asked you what to do with her life, what would you recommend?
Oh, what to do with your life is broad, but if it was in the sense of IT and there was a little bit of an interest for IT, I'd say, hey, go for it, learn to code, and then there are a million ways from there. So
Mhm.
there's no way you're starting to code and you're going to stay in coding. There's no way that you're going to be stuck in anything that you're doing.
Mhm.
IT is a field that allows you to change and switch, and things that are modern now are things that were modern in the past as well. Data was a topic. It went away and it became a topic again. So things are cyclical. But it's also such a vast world, such a fast changing world, that there is no place for boredom. And it is also a field that is emancipating itself
Yeah.
at quite a quick pace. So there will be a place for women at the table. There will be more of a place for women at the table soon enough. So I'd
Yeah.
say go for it, darling. Just run into it and do it.
Perfect. I totally agree. And it's a perfect way to end this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Shirley. It was really
Thank you.
amazing talking to you.
Thank you, Ronke. It was wonderful to be here with you.